Good morning, friends. Today I'm here with the first chapter of class 12th. It's a chapter from Flamingo book, and the chapter is The Last Lesson by Alfonso. So, the last lesson is a chapter where it's described as the last lesson of a teacher and how he deals with that very last lesson and what is the last lesson. So, in this very chapter, there are certain points which we need to keep in mind. First, the overview of the chapter is this describes the year 1870 when Persian forces under Bismarck attacked and captured France. You know that Bismarck and France, these Persian and France wars in 1870. These some Prussians, they captured some or more districts of France, and this story is about that aspect. What was the impact of that very war and how people faced over there. Second was few districts went into Prussian hands. That means two or more districts went into the Prussian hands. France lost two or more than two districts. So what was the impact in those two districts and how the people faced over here? Let's see. The new rulers discontinued the teaching of French in schools of these areas. You know this very thing. A ruler every time wants his own language to be taught, as it was in India. Macaulay gave downward filtration theory, that he said that we have to just educate, or we can say teach English to the upper class and it will pour down to the lowers. So English became the main language of India only because it has rulers as English people, British people. So here it happened again that the new rulers who were Prussians, who were German speakers, so what they did, they tried to establish their own language, so they abolished French. So French teachers were asked to leave now because there was no need of French teachers. They were asked to leave the schools and new German teachers were appointed. The story describes the last lesson of Mr. M. Hamel, a French teacher. Now this story is about the last lesson which the teacher who was teaching French gave at the last moment of what he told and what he was telling the students, what he thought about the students. It's the sum up of all those activities. It highlights human tendency to procrastinate and put away things for tomorrow. Look, we humans have that kind of a tendency. We'll do things tomorrow. We'll carry on. Okay, leave it. We will do it tomorrow. So this is a kind of a human tendency that no, they don't do things on time. As in this very chapter, there are kids and the people over there in the village who are having a thinking that our child will learn tomorrow. They send their children to work in the mills, in the fields. So they are not interested in learning these things. So now Mr. Hamel, he says that this is the human tendency that we always think that let's learn tomorrow. Today we will enjoy. The man keeps postponing the lessons of life, and it's again a thing that whatever we learn, we keep on postponing that very thing. We never indulge that very thing in our daily life. Look, if I have learned something from my experiences, I still get a kind of a problem in the same situations afterwards. I don't just indulge in my experiences. I don't just go through my experiences whenever I do any kind of a work. That is, the people always think that we have a lot of time for things to do and indulge in other activities, as I told you. The last lesson taught by Mr. Hamel symbolizes the loss of language and the loss of freedom for France. Look, here the last lesson in this very chapter, it symbolizes certain things. And first is that France have lost their language. It happens with us as well. As Indians lost their language, Hindi, we still go through that Hindi pakwada, and we for 15 or 10 or 15 days we keep on just circulating this different kind of orders and all these things to make in this Hindi our national language. But still people are more interested towards English. So because it's due to the rule of British people and right now the exposure of English language, that's why we have lost that very thing. And Loss of language and loss of freedom for France as well, because if they have lost two sticks to that Prussians will be imposing their own things over there. So those two districts have lost their language and their freedom as well. Now the lesson refers to the changing orders of life. Look, changing orders, what does it mean? Maybe this time you will have all the freedom to do anywhere. Well, right now, if you will take example of after this quarantine part, because a few days before we used to roam anywhere, we used to go everywhere. But right now, time has changed. You have to stay at home, stay safe, because the time is different right now. So time does not always have same kind of things in it. It changes. It has negative and positive aspects as well. It also shows the impact of colonialism on sensibilities of people and their emotions. Look, colonialism is always a kind of a problem which prevailed in the world since ages. Like India was colonized, and you might have seen that how colonized people, they looted India, and they just took every part of it. They never took care of the common people. They only took care of their income. So here the problem is that these Prussians will just take benefits. They'll not take the common interest in the working of these two districts. The marching soldiers under the windows represent the dawn of Prussian in France. It's obvious that when soldiers are marching, and it's showing that it is the start of this we can say people. It is start of a rule of Prussians into France, and it will continue. It was not only defeat of French people, but resultant threat to their language and culture. Definitely agree. Look, when you have a rule of any other person who don't have your culture, who don't have your language is at threat, your culture is at threat. They are going to destroy your culture, they are going to destroy your language as well, because sooner or later they are going to impose different things which will be based on their own language. So it's obvious. The effect of this transition on the people is shown through the eyes of young boy Franz. There is a boy whose name is Franz. He's the character. He depicts all these things. He shows all these things, and we see, he is the narrator. We see all these things through his eyes. Now the theme here is linguistic chauvinism. Linguistic chauvinism, what does it mean? Linguistic, it is imposition of one language over other, imposition of the language of superiors over the language of inferiors, language of we can say ruling class on working class. Like if in India, we will take example of India, it was Sanskrit or Hindi over here, but when Britishers came, they imposed their own language on us. It was linguistic chauvinism, and they imposed English language, and they make people to learn this city language. It was linguistic chauvinism. Imposition of one language over other, especially that of a ruling class. Language is considered as culture, identity of people. Look, as always, if you are speaking your own language, and you should be proud of your own language, you should speak it. If you are speaking your own language, it's your identity. It is the pride for a country, as it defines the cultural history. Because if I am a Kashmiri, I'll speak Kashmiri properly. If I am an Indian, I'll speak Hindi properly. And it shows my culture, it shows my identity. It gives a different identity to me. That was all in this very video. Hope you liked it. Thank you very much.